Entrepreneurial Edge is brought to you by Business Banking from FNB, because small ideas can lead to big business. FNB, how can we help you?
Now, as you saw in the first half, your father, the former racing champion, Jody Scheckter, he went into farming after years of security business in the States. How difficult was it for him to adjust from the excitement of flying around the track to farming? How did he?
You know, I think he had a passion for farming, because even in the States, when he was running the military business, he had a small farm there, and so I could see there was interest. He was reading books, and I think when he sold the business, he thought, well, let me follow my passion of organic farming, moved back to England and started the farm.
And how does he run the farm?
He pretty much runs it like a pit stop. You know, it's not the typical farm. I think it's pretty high paced and quick moving.
But it is always very difficult for footballers, cricketers, anybody in any form of high profile sport. What do you do afterwards? I mean, after your time, I mean, how old were you when you stopped racing, and how difficult was it to decide what to do?
Yeah, I mean, I think I was about 26, 27. Yeah, it was very tough. You know, what do you do? It's the big question. But I mean, I was quite lucky that I sort of had, I was getting involved in some of the management side and started to find some success, attracting sponsors and working on that side. And that gave me the same amount of excitement as the racing. So for me, it wasn't too tough.
And how difficult is it, the business around racing? I imagine, like a lot of the high-profile sports and high-profile industries like television and what have you, there's a lot of interest, there's a lot of pressure. How difficult is it to break in as an entrepreneur?
I think it's massively tough, there's no doubt. But, you know, I felt like I knew the sport very well. I'd grown up in it. So to sell it made it easier to sponsors. You know, I was speaking to someone that was a driver only a few years back, so I had a good understanding of it.
What are the great difficulties in the industry?
I think it's always tough generating interest in a series and that maybe is lacking on some of the viewership. It's, you know, you've got to try and sell it, and that's basically the toughest bit, selling something that maybe doesn't have the absolute value of what you're trying to sell.
What is the interest like in motor racing these days? I mean, I know it's big on television, but actually people putting their money up, where does it rank in terms of sports to sponsor?
Well, it is the #1 money sport in the world. There's no doubt. I mean, some of the top Formula 1 teams are spending, you know, $600 million a year to make 2 cars go around a circuit. It's phenomenal, and so there's definitely there's most money in that sport for sure.
And you what were you doing? Were you managing drivers as well as getting sponsorship? What's that like, managing?
It was interesting. I mean, I managed, my brother was the first driver, and it wasn't easy because he always saw me as my brother. So, you know, when there was tough business decisions, you know, it became quite tough. But you know, it was good. You know, I also had an understanding of what it was like to be a driver, what the driver needed in terms of the contract, and what he needed from the team. So again, it was, I understood it.
And your brother, he's still going strong. I mean, how's he getting on with his career? Yeah,
he's racing in IndyCar. I think he's been there for 10 years now, doing the Indy 500. Not easy. It's not easy market right now. Sponsors, it's tough, but he's still working on it, and you know, hopefully gets a drive next year.
How would you compare racing now within your father's time? I mean, you must have views on this as well.
Well, I think certainly Formula 1 has gone massively ahead in safety. The cars are safe, the tracks are much safer, so it's I think a safer place for the drivers, better.
And now you've come well away from the track, and you're an entrepreneur, and you're into the, well, for want of a better phrase, the health drinks business. What sort of pushed you in that direction?
Well, in fact, when I was in the States working with sponsors, a lot of them were in fact energy drinks. So, you know, sponsors that were spending a lot of money, but I didn't really want to drink the product. Still needed energy, so I thought, how can I do a healthier version? So I spent 2 years developing, you know, Scheckter's Organic Energy, and sourcing ingredients from around the world, and launched the product beginning of this year.
How difficult is it? I mean, there are so many energy drinks and what have you on the market these days. It's very difficult to tell one from another. How do you establish a new brand like that?
I think that's exactly it. I think there's hundreds of brands launching a year. I say all trying to do the market leader, me too. Trying to copy this, what they do, rebrand it, but offer the same product. If I was going to do something, I realized I had to do something substantially different. And that's what we've done, offered a healthy alternative, and it wasn't easy to do, but I believe we've got a very good product right now.
And like your father with his organic farm in Hampshire, yours is from natural ingredients, this drink of yours. It's very difficult at the moment with the costs and the difficulties in farming. I mean, it must be a very hard business to go into.
No, for sure. And again, one of the things when creating the brand was to make sure that I wasn't organic but niche, 30% or 40% above, what you can get. So we've matched the market leader in terms of pricing. You can find us in Woolworths, Kauai and Virgin Active gyms at the same prices you can find any top-end energy drink.
And what's your target market for how have you put the marketing model together?
Well, I think we're not aiming at a teenage kid. It's more sort of someone that's concerned of what they consume, still want the energy, but a little bit more concerned of what is in these things. And we've gone to the absolute degree to put good quality ingredients in the product.
Now, you've just launched it here in South Africa. What are your plans for the rest of the African continent?
Well, I think we've signing up accounts all the time. We've obviously just launched 2 months ago in South Africa, but we are growing on a daily basis. So who knows what the future lies in South Africa at the moment. But we're in the UK, we're in South Africa, we'll be in the US in March. In Russia, and there's interest from Japan. So.
And is that how you see yourself in the future, as a sort of one of these health drink moguls, or what?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I think every day is just a challenge to make the business work, and within any startup, it's looking at every detail to make sure it's a success, and that's what I'm doing. I know I've got a long-term vision of where I'd like to see the business, but right now I've just got my head down on the daily stuff.
What are the problems you have to deal with every day?
Probably money. I think everything we do has to have a value connected to it. We can't blow money on above the line advertising right now. It's finding the right shows and festivals and doing the right things that brings value to our product.
And what is it like with a new product as an entrepreneur? It's one of the oldest stories in the game, isn't it? You go to the bank and say, listen, I've got this new product. You probably never heard of it, but will you lend me some money? So what do they say to you?
No, it's massively tough. I mean, when we first visited the bank, they said we're not lending for the first year. So it was tough. I mean, we've scrapped funds together to get us through the beginning stages. The bank's now come back to us and said, we're now very keen to invest. So, I think if you can prove the concept, we've got a lot of purchase orders, we've got a lot of interest in the business right now, so to get funding becomes easier.
So how clever do you have to be now? The banks are taking interest, you've passed over. I mean, how clever do you have to be now in terms of planning your finance in the future? Yeah,
I think it's sort of managing our growth and not, let's say, giving the company away. I want to keep, I've got a clear vision of where I want to take it. So it's about managing our growth, moving quickly but steadily.
And whereabouts are you manufacturing, and how many jobs are you supporting?
Well, we're manufacturing in Holland. They were the only facility that would allow us to become organically certified in Europe, and we export to around the world from there. We're a small business. I think we've got about 10 employees worldwide, and it's a small business, but we outsource a lot and sort of keep our overheads to a minimal.
And what's your target in terms of world distribution for these drinks? I mean, have you got a figure you're aiming at?
No, I don't think an exact figure. I think you just try and go out there and get in as many places as possible. I know what the world market is for energy drinks. It's massive. I think we've got a clearly different offering to the consumer. And I think if we can just keep working at it, I think it's proving in South Africa, in fact, within Woolworths, sales are going fantastically, and the concept's working.
And just going back to yourself, I don't know whether you have children, the next generation. One day, maybe you will. What would you do if they came to you and said, "Dad, I want to be a racing driver"?
I'd probably say the same thing my father said, no. I think it's, unless they had a true passion, I'd probably, help them out. But I think the honest truth, it is massively tough. You've got such a small percent of people actually making it. There's other things you can do, I think, in life.
I mean, what would you rather they do, you think?
Business, probably. I mean, maybe just follow their passion. I think no matter what you do, if you follow that and you've got drive behind it, you can make it a success.
But how difficult is it, though, sometimes for yourself when you hear that roar of the engine and you can smell the fuel? I mean, don't you ever get that hunger to get back in?
Every time you get to a racetrack, you get that. I think the reality is that there's probably better guys out there. And my goals and aspirations have changed. I go to the track and I'm trying to connect. How can I get my drink into certain teams, or get involved with certain drives to promote the drink? So again, it just comes back to the drink. But there's always that itch to get back into the car.
And how do you resist it?
Sometimes I go do a race or two, but it's more for pleasure.
And how about your father now? I mean, it's many, many, many years since he was a racing champion. But what does he feel about it? I mean, surely, does he have a hunger to get back behind the wheel?
It's quite funny. He did the Top Gear event at Kyle Army recently and drove the Red Bull Formula 1 car and enjoyed it, and came out of the car, and I haven't seen a big smile like that in a while. So, he's definitely, it brings back, I think, a lot of fond memories of getting back in if you'd ever get back. And he's a farmer now, and he'll tell you that.
And do you think he wishes to carry on as a farmer now for the rest of his life?
Yes, I mean, it's his absolute passion right now, and he's working pretty hard at Laverstoke, and I think it's getting close to getting into the right place.
The Entrepreneurial Edge, wish him the best of luck. Thank you very much, Toby Schekter, the son of Jody Scheckter, the former world racing champion. Sadly, that's the end of this edition of the Entrepreneurial Edge. Make sure you catch next week's episode when we highlight another entrepreneur's success story. Until then, from myself, Chris Bishop, is goodbye.